the network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
This is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
Welcome to A State of Control, an AVNation podcast that highlights the control automation and programming aspects of the audiovisual industry. My name is Steve Greenblatt. I'll be your host today. Thanks for joining us. For those of you who listen often, you'll know that this show typically covers the industry trends, opportunities, and challenges and topics that programmers and others that are involved with control systems face. And this show will be a little bit different. We're not going to vary too far from the subject matter, but we're going to speak specifically about an event that all of the guests today have attended, and that is the Harmon Developers Conference in Richardson, Texas. And to help me to elaborate on that, I'm going to introduce our guests. I'll start with Chris Backus from Harmon. He was our host and the organizer of the event.
Thanks,
Welcome,
Steve.
Chris.
I appreciate it.
Thanks for joining us. Next, I'll introduce Ben Barry from AV Tech Source, and he's a fellow VIP company owner and was in attendance with us as well. Welcome today, Ben.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for joining us. And last but not least, a colleague and AV Solutions Master, Dave Hatz from AVI Systems. Welcome, Dave.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us. So we're going to talk a little bit about the event. This isn't the first time the event's been held, but it was a little bit different this year. And Chris, give us a little bit of a background about the event. I know that we don't want to go into all of the nitty-gritty details, but why does Harmon put on an event like this, and kind of share a little bit about what goes on so that everybody can get a feel for it?
Okay. Well, why do we put it on? Really, it's for the engagement between some of the high-level power users of our tools and our software to really get some feedback on products that have been released and what's working, and then some of the items that we can talk about, the upcoming software releases or hardware things that have been announced, and we can get some feedback from the community on that. But really, it's an opportunity to just get those people together to talk to some of the folks that maybe they wouldn't normally have access to really get the outside opinion of what's going on in the industry as well as our product line. You mentioned it's been going on for a while. I think this was our fourth iteration of it, and so we've really just kind of been evolving as we go along to incorporate more and more people into the event, but also to expand the scope in terms of topics and what we can cover during that event.
And so Ben, I know you and I have been at this a number of years. What is the importance of it to you, and how do you take time away from your business? How do you justify taking time away from your business to attend something like this?
I think it's important in a couple of ways for a VIP especially. One, I think seeing other VIPs and being able to talk about business and discuss issues that we may be having and kind of throw ideas at each other is important. But also, I think it's important to see AMX's roadmap, their vision of the future, so to speak, so that we can prepare, maybe a little bit ahead of the rest of the curve. And I think in the end, I think that's really why I think it's important. Is I get to see where AMX is going. So.
And now, Dave, this was your first event of this nature, and this is also the first time that it was expanded to include more than just VIP companies, which, and for those who aren't familiar, VIP companies are those companies that are affiliated with AMX. They're independent programming companies that have been recognized by AMX and have a direct affiliation. Now, Dave, you work for an integrator, and you certainly have the qualifications of attending and this type of event. What did you get out of it, and how did you feel you fit in?
Well, I think Chris and I actually have been talking for a couple years now about how can the program get expanded to offer it to the solutions masters. And really where I see it as sort of twofold. One, it's access to the minds behind the curtain of a company like AMX. So it's access to the product managers and the engineers who are designing the product, and to get both feedback for us as well as provide feedback to them about where things are and where things are going, and to give feedback about what's important. And so, certainly, that's, a huge thing, for me as an integrator. I want to, have some influence on the next feature, or which feature might be more important, or, sort of, just be prepared. The other side of it, though, really is, I look at as the social aspect, that we all live in a really small industry. And, Steve, you and I have known each other for a while, and, everything, every relationship that we can foster, with other like-minded individuals, our peers, can only benefit, our companies and the industry as a whole.
I appreciate that, and that's actually one of the reasons that I go, because I actually don't program anymore, and I had for years, but kind of moved on to be able to run my business. But I value that same reason for going, and it's building those relationships and expanding your network, and knowing who to reach out to when you have a question or when you need something. I value that.
Well, and it comes down to, I've had people actually question my logic on that, of, well, you compete, there's times where I might compete with Control Concepts on a job.
Sure.
But the way I look at it is, once, it's the sales guys who compete. Once a project's sold, we're not, on the technical side especially, we're really not competing. And the more people that we can build up that network of individuals that or in groups that we can reach out to for assistance, it only benefits us all. I mean, there's been times where I'm on a job site and it's Friday at 6 o'clock at night and I just want to go home, and I've picked up the cell phone and I've called a VIP partner. I've got a number of people on my speed dial, and hey, I'm running into this problem. Have you seen it before? Do you have, some ideas? And without events like this, I wouldn't have those relationships, which, ultimately does cost my company time and money, because I'm trying to figure things out on my own.
That's an excellent point. Ben, I think you can relate as well, because you and I have been to many different events together, and I think that we formed a similar type of relationship. When it comes to feeling the difference between a competitor and a colleague, and how do you put that into perspective?
Well, I think we're all in the struggle together, so to speak. I mean, in the end, whether you get the job or I get the job, it really doesn't matter. It's at some point we're going to need advice or some sort of pat on the back or something like that, and that's where this all comes together. I mean, the social aspect is very important, and Chris has done a great job of giving us opportunities to meet. We're kind of isolated most of the time. I mean, I focus on Chicago and our area. You're in Connecticut, and we don't, I don't get to talk very often with you, and I don't get to talk with Dave, even though he's probably about 300 feet away from me. But that really is important, and having relationships and being able to talk about business issues, not just programming issues, but business issues, is huge. So.
Yeah, I concur there 100%. And I think that's what I was going to chime in about. It's not just technical discussions, and we face common challenges that I think that we could share experiences and make you feel like you're not alone.
Yes, yeah, definitely. We've had many conversations along those lines.
Well, the other thing, even at this year's developers conference, there were a number of folks from the Australia distributor. And so just some of the conversations that came up about how things are done different over there than here. Mm-hmm. Technologies that have been adopted quicker or slower in other areas. Again, that's all knowledge that can be beneficial to us, that when we get a project or start talking with a customer about an area, that how are things being adopted in other areas? What challenges are our peers facing, and have they found solutions to those? It's all valuable.
Sure. So Chris, I guess this sounds like all good feedback for you.
Absolutely.
It sounds to me like there's a community there that Harmon is leveraging, and with this type of an event, and I guess with a lot of the training that you oversee, do you see that there's a lot of exchange of information amongst the attendees, and how what is Harmon doing to foster something like that?
Well, I think Dave brought up some great points as far as the different opinions and experiences from folks around the globe. We had a couple of folks from foreign countries, which was exciting to us because when we entered into this year planning for the event, we knew that we wanted to expand our reach beyond just, to your point earlier, the Valued Independent Partner Program that had been historically the attendee of this event. And as a planning committee, we knew that the level of effort needed to scale up and get more participation really wasn't that much greater than the event itself that we've been doing for the last couple of years. So, it's just a matter of scale at that point. The agenda is still the same. The training activities, for the most part, are still the same. But how do we include more people? And so, obviously, with several thousand certified people in our organization, the question is, how do I find a balance between just opening up the doors to everyone? And because there's a number of people that asked whenever we sent out an invite for it, they were asking, how do I participate in this event? But we really needed to find a balance as we want to grow this properly so that we can scale up and learn what we don't know. But the idea initially was take the existing user base of valued independent partners, add in the people that have achieved our highest certification level, like Dave, that would be the AMX Solutions Master rating. And that opened up our audience to a larger group, and we felt like that was a pretty good place to be, at least for this year's event. And so then we wanted to ask the question of, do we just keep this domestically or do we open it up internationally? And the Valued Independent Partner Program is actually a global endeavor, and we have participants around the world that are joining in on that. And for the same reasons of the discussion and the networking and all that non-technical talk, right? It just made more sense to bring all those folks in. Obviously, the technical side is what a lot of people are initially excited about, but I know that there's discussions going on of how are you hiring new programmers and what are you looking for and where are you looking? And those types of business discussions are also hugely valuable. So I would say, to your original question of how are we looking to increase this in exposure, we're always looking at ways to do it, but we want to do it in the right way. And so that's why this year we opened it up both internationally to the VIP partner community at large, as well as the Solutions Master community.
And do you feel like that was received well, and do you feel like that that it worked, I guess, from Harmon's perspective?
For everything I wanted to achieve, absolutely. But it allowed us to kind of test it in a safe environment where the numbers, we could still keep it in our Richardson facility. And that's a challenge moving forward, though, as we continue to grow the event. Where do I move it off-site that I can still have access to the same brain trust and engineering resources that are just more than willing to walk down the hall from their cube to come talk to you, but when you go off-site and you've got to get in the car and travel to go somewhere, is that going to be a rub point and a point of friction? So still working that out internally, but I would say yes, it was highly successful from our standpoint. We were able to see some new faces and let them take advantage of the forums and the training sessions that we were putting on for the event.
Great, and I'm sure good food and drinks, that usually will motivate some people.
Always helps. Always helps.
So Ben, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you did or you have had more than one person attend this in the past. What criteria do you use when you're thinking about involving more than one person, and knowing that this is obviously not only a cost financially but also in time, and just to clarify, Harmon does cover one person from the VIP companies that are attending, but at least when I'm looking at it, you have to go out of town, and there's definitely expense involved if you're adding more people.
Sure. Well, Chris has done a nice job about including training that week prior to the actual developers conference, so it makes it much easier. And with the multiple options of training this year, it was a lot easier to say, there's 2 training options, let's hit them both. We can do them both all in 1 week rather than trying to find time elsewhere. So that worked out well. And it's important for other people to see what AMX is doing. I've been, I think we've been to every one of the developers conferences, and I see it routinely, but it's good for other people to see what AMX is doing, as well as get tours of the facility and meet people and have Chris meet another face to AV Tech Source, as well as they get to provide their input to AMX, and they maybe feel a little bit more heard than just yelling at me to tell AMX to do this or do that. So
Sure. Did they feel like it was worth their while, and they
definitely, yeah. They really enjoyed the training. One of our other gentlemen that went did the BSS training, and he thought it was really good. And then the developers conference, he's kind of a quiet guy, so didn't speak up much, but yeah,
Sure.
he enjoyed it.
So Dave, I'll throw over to you. Do you think that it would motivate more people in your company to become AMX Masters solution provider or solution certification to be able to attend something like this?
I think so. I mean, I think, everyone has their own motivations for, why they pursue training, or, the sort of the personal enrichment pieces. But I think, I know a lot of our programmers really get excited when they hear the idea of, both the social aspects, meeting their peers, but also getting the ability to help influence a company's roadmap, the direction they're going, and hear where they're going. And so I think, it gives, especially our younger guys, guys and gals, it gives them something to strive for. That, hey, if I put in the time, I invest my resources to get certified, there are other benefits to it besides just a piece of paper that goes on the wall. And so I think everything we can do to enrich what comes along with a certification, or in this case the highest certification, I think it's always beneficial.
I think that makes a lot of sense, and it's good to hear that, because I think that as a business owner and somebody who has to manage programmers, it's often tough to get them to understand the value of certification, because they realize, I do this day in and day out, why do I have to prove myself?
Right, and that's exactly it. That if it's not going to change the way I necessarily do a lot of my work, well, why do I need it? And certainly there's things you're going to learn along the way. And I look at events like this, and I'll come into them with, in my mind, I think I'm going to pick up this. And at the end of the week, I really didn't get much more on those topics, but there's a whole realm of other things that I picked up. And it might be as simple as something little that's in the software that's been there for 10 years I just didn't know about. Or it might be something new, or it might be something that I made a request and it's going to be in there next month. But all of those are just sort of the intangible benefits of, an event like the developer conference.
That's great to hear. So Chris, I'll hop over to you and just shift gears a little bit. The other hat that you wear is training, which I talked about, and Harmon is really evolving their training program. Talk to us a little bit about what to expect in the future about Harmon Training, and it sounds to me like the motivation of having these certifications is valuable. And how do you take that into consideration in developing your different tracks and programs?
Okay. Well, basically 2 years ago is when AMX was acquired by Harmon, and at that point I was in charge of training for AMX, and I was looking around at what is the model, and it was really brand centric, right? We had AMX certifications, we had BSS certifications, and that was pretty much the extent of it across really a 12 or plus brand Harmon professional product portfolio. And so what we've been doing is really trying to find a way to create one program that makes sense for all of the people that would participate in it, in terms of, does it feel like one brand, like we'll use AMX as an example, has a huge training offering, whereas the other brands that maybe I sell, one, not the other, or both, do they have a balance in the portfolio in terms of training offerings? And so using the AMX model as a guide, and for those who aren't familiar with the AMX model, it's basically role-based training. It's not a particular hardware platform type environment for the most part, meaning I don't certify people on a control processor. I either design systems, I install systems, I program systems, or some combination of those. And so what we looked at was that role-based model and how we could apply it across the rest of Harmon Professional. And so you mentioned earlier in the discussion, and some of the guys were talking about the training events that we had. If we step back a little bit and we look at the events in the prior years, it was really through an AMX only lens. And this year we had three new curriculums, excuse me, that we wanted to showcase and provide an opportunity not only to be one of the first to go through it and complete it, but also just an opportunity that you may not have had in your local region to be able to take and consume that training. So basically at this conference we were able to have an audio programmer class for BSS, and then we had a new SVSI commissioning and design courses as well. So the audio track went after that with BSS for 3 days prior to our event, kind of the Monday through Wednesday, and then we squeezed 4 days of training into 3 for the SVSI classes. Each one of those is normally a 2-day class, but we're able to kind of condense that. One, the audience is very technically astute, and so we're able to get through some material a little bit faster, but also we just extend the day, and so instead of going from 9 to 5, they could go 8 or 8:30 into whenever they need to reach a stopping point for the day. But it allows you to kind of have that one plane ticket, getting to an event where you were going to be there even if it was just Thursday, Friday. And I think if you remember the first event that we ran, it was just Thursday, Friday. And then I thought about it the next year because a couple of folks were really just asking about could we do something else while we're there, because the day and a half of that conference was fantastic, but how do we also get a little bit more from our travel dollars to spend and do some training there? So that's why we've added that certification training onto the front end. But in terms of where Harmon Training is going, it's really to accommodate that whole product portfolio and find ways to offer role-based certifications, especially at a minimum 3 for all of our areas of for design, installation, and programming. Because the reality is everything that we sell requires some degree of those elements. If it's audio, video, networked AV, lighting, or control, all of those areas should have this level of specification and training offered.
So then as somebody who is looking to attend, you typically would identify with what your role is in the industry and then follow the track that would educate you on multiple product lines.
Correct.
Is that what I'm... Okay.
Correct. And within your organization, not every organization is this way. Some, we wear a lot of hats in some of these organizations where you are the chief bottle washer and everything else, right? But generally, and especially we see it in the larger firms, they have a design team, and that design team is specifying or doing, as-built and drawings, and they're specifying for their customer solutions using hardware sets available to them. And so we recognize for that person specifically, they need to know how to pick the right bill of materials from our product offering to achieve the solutions that their customers are asking for. So back to my point earlier where you may sell one product line but not the other, I also didn't want to create a super class that would put you in a 5-day Harmon immersion program, if you want to call it, that would let you specify everything, because just out of respect for your time and what your business is doing, I wanted to let you pick and choose based on what it is that you're looking to accomplish. So there is a dedicated audio design class that we will be releasing here within the next 6 months that focuses on how to pick the right amplifier and microphone and DSP and speaker. Right? That makes a lot of sense to be able to know how to pick through what is really a large product portfolio. Harmon, like some of the largest things in our industry, there's a lot of companies that have a few products, right? But we have a lot of products, and it's difficult at times to navigate through those to understand what I'm supposed to pick. So we have that today for control, where we know how to pick the right AMX video and control product. We have that today for networked AV. How do I pick the right product within the SVSI ecosystem? And we're working on audio. Lighting will come after that. But as you can see, it just makes sense to kind of segment that out so that people have an a la carte way of getting the type of material they need. And as we look, and it's interesting, and a total tangent to what your conversation was and what the question was, but if we look at that AMX Solutions Master title, and this is one of those areas moving forward, we got to figure out what we're going to do here, because it's no longer just an AMX ecosystem, right? And with the inclusion of SVSI, does that mean I need to expand that certification? Well, we're not convinced we need to do that yet. So we have a lot of things to decide, I guess, as we go forward, because how does a BSS developer or a BSS programmer benefit from a conference like this, and how do we include those folks? And likewise with folks that do Martin lighting and things. And so we do think the event's going to grow, just like the training portfolio, but there's going to be a lot of decisions that go into making that happen.
So it sounds like there's a lot of room for growth.
Definitely, but that's good. It keeps me busy for a couple of years to come.
Of course. So Ben, in your company, do you see different people that have different roles taking advantage of these classes, or do you send people kind of down the same programmer route typically?
We have, for us, we do basically everything a dealer would do except for sell equipment. So we have installers, we have designers, we have programmers, and so we do have people that will design things and not program. We have people that will install things and not design things or program them. So yeah, I mean, having the ability to pick and choose and not have to go through a programming class that they'll be lost in is a nice idea. In fact, that's the reason why we chose the classes that we chose this year, was because the gentleman that came is not necessarily, he is a certified programmer, but AMX programmer, but he doesn't program. He does all the audio stuff for us, and so it was a good fit for him to go to the BSS training rather than sit in the SVSI stuff where he's not going to have any real interest in, other than maybe the ideas of it, but not necessarily pick anything out of it. So, but we do that constantly. We send our guys to training. It seems like it's a constant door of people going to training for us, but but they get to choose. If they're interested in a subject, then we let them explore it. I mean, it only benefits us to have someone that can do more than one thing. So it's I think I answered the question. I actually don't even remember what the question was.
Well, it sounds to me, and that's kind of where I was going with things, is that the breadth of knowledge really can't be isolated just to one person, and you have to start to look at having people specialize in different areas, and then, so a program similar to this kind of lends itself to that.
Certainly, yeah. I mean, you always will have in any kind of an organization, you're always going to have someone that is kind of the person that everyone goes to ask questions, but you should have the opportunity to learn different sides of things and not be pigeonholed into, I'm only an installer, or I'm only an audio guy. I don't know how to program. I don't know how to plug in a Phoenix connector, that kind of stuff. It only benefits the companies and even AMX to have people that know more than one little channel of whatever they're doing. So
sure. So Dave, I'll jump over to you. We've talked a lot about, at least from an independent programmer standpoint, how the role of the programmer has expanded. And are you seeing that in your seat? And it sounds to me like a training program similar to this, where it gives you a lot of opportunity to learn about the different areas of the industry that touch on control is valuable.
Absolutely. No, I mean, we talk about it on just about every AVNation show regardless of the show, that the role of any of us in the industry is shifting. That we're all, the line between programming and configuration and audio configuration and video configuration, it's all blurring. And so, a program like what Chris has put together here really allows us to specialize where we need to. And it might, my role isn't going to be the same as yours. AVI Systems has offices across the country. And so in one of our regions, a technician might get into programming and configure the DSP. In another, that might be a dedicated programmer. And as we look at it, across all of our regions and really across the whole industry, it's important to be able to specialize where you need to, but also back out and get the general classifications as well. And so, and I might not do BSS audio programming on a daily basis, so I just need the design level curriculum. But I need the commissioning and engineering, or the commissioning and programming level on an SVSI product. And that's where I think the structure that Chris and his team are working to put in place really bring that to the forefront, that we have the the a la carte. We have the option to get the training that's appropriate as our needs arise and shift, but yet we're also not being pigeonholed to, I have to sit through the entire programmer curriculum if I rarely touch programming, or I'm just a service person who is out there maybe commissioning or triaging problems, but I'm not sitting writing code from scratch. And I think it's important to have all those options, really.
Sure, makes sense. Chris, I'm going to wrap things up with you. Moving forward, we've talked about a lot of different ideas, and it sounds pretty exciting as to where the Developers Conference is heading. What should people that are interested in this, learning more about this, what should they expect? And do you have kind of a preview for us for next year to kind of provide a little motivation and enticement?
Well, thanks for the softball tee up right there. But I think really, ultimately, we'll know the date for next year's event here within the next few months. We try and put the date out there so people can reserve the time, and so we'll have the date. As far as requirements for the next event, I would say we're at least keeping the structure that we have today, where to be an attendee, you have to either be a member of the Valued Independent Partner Program, or you have to have achieved the AMX Solutions Master Rating. And so I don't know if we're going to expand it. We're always looking for feedback, but we do have to put some boundaries on that in terms of attendance. As far as venue and location, there's a great chance it's just going to be offsite next year to accommodate the people, because we really are outgrowing the current large classroom structure that we have here within this building. In terms of training format, I mentioned that we'll be releasing that audio designer curriculum, and so I definitely expect that to be on tap for next year. But for the folks looking for that, as far as other subjects, I do expect to be able to offer the networked AV classes as well. And my goal, our reach goal, is to have that networked AV programmer class, which I know will be wildly popular for the audience that's attending this. And so, to your point, we offer a little bit of something for everybody. I like the introduction of new training options this year to give people some variety. And to Ben's point, we can divide and conquer. A number of firms brought multiple people to the event this year to allow them to send them to both classes, still participate in the same activities at the end of the week. I expect to keep the same format. So training in the front, engineering roundtable discussions at the back of the week, and really just hope to grow the community and really grow the dialogue and relationships that everyone on the call today mentioned, just so that you know who your community is and you know who your resources are. But hopefully I gave you a little bit of a peek for where we want to be, but still more to follow.
I think you did. I think you gave plenty, and hopefully this is a good endorsement for you. So that'll do it for us for today. I appreciate everybody's involvement, and sorry about that. I want to thank our guests for today. First off, Dave Hatz from AVI Systems. Dave, thanks for joining us and being a part of our show today.
It's been a pleasure.
how can our audience get in touch with you and learn more about AVI systems?
They can learn more about Dave Hatz and the Commercial Integrator 40 under 40 that just came out for 2016. So congratulations, Dave.
Well, thank you, sir. Thank you. So obviously, AVIsystems.com is a great resource for anyone looking for system integration needs. For me, I float around the Twitterverse a little bit. Dave Hatz AVI. Just AVIsystems.com, though, really is where it's at.
Excellent. Next, Ben Barry from AV Tech Source. Thanks for joining us today, Ben.
Thank you very much.
How can our audience get in touch with you or learn more about your company?
avtechsource.com or 847-557-8449.
The old way.
Yes, we're old school.
Very good.
Newfangled technology.
And last but not least, Chris, thanks for joining us and being a part of this. Chris Backus from Harmon. How can everyone get in touch with you?
Well, thanks for having me, Steve. I really do appreciate it. The easiest way to find me is just training help at harmon.com. And that's just the easiest way for you or anyone in the organization to reach out to me to learn more about what we're doing, to learn more about the program for next year and the developer conference next year. Or you can find me on Twitter. I don't really tweet. I retweet a lot of folks, but I really just get my news from Twitter. So anyway, very easy to find either there or LinkedIn, wherever you want to go.
Great. Thank you. So my name is Steve Greenblatt. You could reach me at Steve Greenblatt on all sorts of social media channels, and right now I'm pretty into Snapchat, so check me out there. And my company is Control Concepts, and you can reach us at controlconcepts.net. We have a new revamped logo and website, so check it out and let me know what you think. But more importantly, this show and a bunch of others can be found at avnation.tv. Drop us a line. Visit the site, leave a comment, let us know what you want to hear from us, and also take some time to visit the underwriters who make this show and the others possible. But that's it for today. Thanks for joining us. This has been A State of Control.